And so it sounds like it's pretty important for your attorney to know about forensic science. And I know that you, Brian, really do a lot of continuing education on the law and on all different aspects of criminal law, including forensics. And like, I don't know if you can, give us some examples of, why this is important and some of the things that you've done.
Absolutely, Erica. So it's important for a criminal defense attorney to know what the high level techniques are for creating good forensic science. So care starts from the moment an agent arrives on a crime scene. From collection, you have to know who was present, what was collected, how it was collected, and it goes all the way through the forensic testing process to the analysis and reporting of results. You don't put let's say a urine sample in a machine and the machine tells you, oh, that person was intoxicated. That machine spits out a graph and a lab analyst has to interpret that graph. Now, if the lab analyst doesn't interpret that graph correctly, accurately, fairly, we have a failure of forensic science. One example on the collection end, we had a case where gunshot residue was a key piece of the prosecution's evidence. And what we learned from video and photo evidence taken at the time of the crime scene investigation was that a number of clothing items from a number of different individuals were all put in the same bag with the clothing item that ultimately was tested for and came up positive for gunshot residue. Now that's bad science because we can't tell where the residue initially came from. We've had, as we mentioned before, the urine results that were left out on a counter somewhere for weeks on end. We've had cases, this gets a little more technical, but urine in a DUI case, the bladder is a reservoir. And so the first void of the bladder, the first urination, will always have a much higher alcohol content or alcohol metabolite content than a second void. And the second void of urine is the one that actually is representative of the blood alcohol content at the time of the urine sample being submitted. That urine from 2, 3, or 4 hours ago is an aggregation of all of the urine over the time period, 2, 3, 4 hours. So you often have artificially high reports in that situation. Defense attorneys need to understand at a high level. You don't have to get down to the granular level. You don't have to know how to precisely interpret these results. You don't need to know how to maintain these machines, but you need to know what to look for. And it's critical that attorneys take the proper continuing legal education that teaches them what to look for in these scenarios. Defense attorney needs to know that information so that they can investigate these cases properly and present the defenses that are available and challenge incorrect forensic science in the courtroom when science fails. And I think it's most important that a defense attorney have that basic background in science so that they can communicate that information to their client. Because oftentimes we are talking about very complicated issues of chemistry, physics, and in some cases even psychology. And if you can't translate that information to your client, you're really doing your client a disservice and not showing them the truth of what the evidence is. And maybe even more importantly, you may be missing critical defenses that are available. That's the reason I think that it's so important that I stay up on scientific techniques. I read various treatises and I stay up to date on the most important and most cutting edge scientific techniques for these testing that we run into most frequently, because I don't want to miss something that sends somebody to prison for 20 years wrongfully.